Hey guys, welcome back. Last week we got these shafts assembled with the pinion shaft and all its gears and synchros and the main shaft. This week we're going to get those shafts pressed into the intermediate plate along with some of my custom tooling and the workshop press. We need to make sure they press evenly because if one advances quicker than the other, they will self-destruct and interfere and break dog teeth and whatever.
I was very careful that the tooling actually pushed against the inner race and not against the intermediate plate. Some of the tooling I've seen people use, it just pushes on the plate. That puts load through the actual balls on the ball bearings, and I try to prevent that as much as possible. So I made a support that goes underneath the bearings and supports them on the inner race. So none of the force is transferred through via the balls. You don't want to dent the balls or anything like that. I was watching it and going very slow. I would back off the pressure. I would add more pressure to one shaft. I would push it down 1/16 of an inch. Then I would push together. And then if that didn't work, I would go to the other shaft, push on that. I found that it needed a little bit more pressure on the main shaft than it did on the pinion shaft. And that could be the way the bearings are made or whatever. But back from the workshop, got everything pushed on and reassembled in the intermediate plate. That's awesome. I did do one thing. This bolt right here that comes through to attach the retaining plate, it does get very close to this gear right here. And what I ended up doing is I ended up grinding a little bit of that bolt off. It was just a little too close for comfort for me. Probably like 20 thousandths of an inch though. It's not a lot. And then now I'm just getting the parts for reverse gear. I've already trial fit this gear. This stuff, you know, just kind of slides on, pretty simple. No extra washers, just got to find the Woodruff keys. There's 2 on this shaft and 1 on that shaft. There's actually a procedure for torquing the pinion gear to a very high amount, and then you loosen it, and then you torque it again. That's according to the workshop manual. That's gonna make sure everything's seated, and then in operating conditions, it doesn't need that much torque, and then it gets a cotter key, so that nut will never come off. This one is just torqued once. So that's important to have it torqued before we check the pinion depth as it goes in the transmission housing.
The only reason that race came out so easily is because I TIG welded along the entire diameter of that race, let it cool down, which shrunk it tremendously. Now I'm installing the new race while the housing is heated up to about 250 degrees. I heated it up in the barbecue. Can't tell in this video, but it is hot and it does help make this go in a little easier. Visibility is not great here, but I'm just installing the snap ring for the larger bearing, which is for the pinion shaft. This tool locks the trans so I can torque the nuts on the backside. Maybe someday I'll get some time to weld a 4th wheel on the front of this engine stand.
I've taken the gear cluster out of the housing for the final time. I'm now getting ready to finish the assembly of the intermediate plate. I'm going to put in all the locks, all the selector forks and the locks. I have them organized as I took them out. This is the 1-2 selector. All these parts are ultrasonically cleaned. 3-4 and reverse. And so I also have these labeled as well. And this is the first time I've ever taken my workshop manual here into the garage. I typically don't put this in here. This is an original 356 manual. So I'm not going to get it dirty. I'm just going through the exact instructions on what order to place all these parts and make sure I get all the shifter forks in the correct location. Oops. Okay, that's in its little detent right there, so now I can feel how it works. And next is the first, second selector rod and fork. Take this off temporarily. That's the first and second. I'm going to take it out of first gear. I left it in first gear when I was torquing these things. Now it's in neutral, so that lines up with the bolt I just took out. So I'm just going to loosely put that in. We'll adjust this later. It's first, second, and the slider shift fork. Okay, the second interlock pin, these are like little torpedoes. And I found instead of just dropping them in the hole, it's better to put them in from the side and then line it up and just push it down with the barbecue skewer. So there's that. And now the third 4 selector fork. I think I did that backwards. This needs to be in place. And I just got to double check the picture on the direction on this one. And we'll sort out the alignment of all these things later. This is the free length for the reverse spring. I get 9995. The minimum is 992. So we'll go ahead and put this one in. This time we should just be able to drop the ball in. I don't think it can go anywhere. For reverse, this is the reverse spring. Both sides are the same ends. Drop that in, and then this is the nut. The free length of this spring is about 907, and the minimum of that spring is 895. So this is able to go in. Spring and nut. And then the 3-4 selector fork gets a ball, a spring, which I'll double check the length of the spring one more time. I've just discovered what I think is another problem. I'm getting 1.016, and that is over the spec for the 3-4. So I'm taking out the 1-2, which is supposed to be the same spring. Both the forward gears are supposed to have the same size spring. This one was in spec and this one is not. And so you can see the difference in height. It's way too long. This is actually the correct size or slightly too big even for the reverse. So basically there's been 2 reverse springs and 1 forward spring used in this transmission. That's just another mistake to add to the list. So this is just a rundown of the errors that I found. Missing the roll pin in the reverse rod. The reverse idler bearing, it's a sleeve bearing, was staked and improperly installed. It was just too loose. The wrong 4th gear needle bearing was used and it was missing a roller. It was missing a roller on the 3rd gear needle bearing. The pinion nut was over torqued by a lot. Also, the main shaft nut was over torqued. The bearing plate had some damage to the inner counter bore and had some damage of a spun bearing. It was used anyways. And now the wrong detent spring in the 3/4 selector rod shaft. This is not including the parts that were worn, like the dog teeth on 4th gear and the pinion bearing on the pinion shaft towards the gear. I'm really glad I took this transmission apart and did the work I did. Okay, while I look for the correct spring for the 3/4, I'm going to adjust the shift forks because that doesn't really depend on the spring pressure. So in order to do that, the manual says to put the reverse gear in, the idler gear in. Now I still need to rework this bearing, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in for now, and then we can use that to set the other forward speed fork relationships. So that goes in like so. And then it tells you to put a shaft in so that it positions this gear. The position of this gear will then determine the position of these forks. So what I've done is I remembered that the diameter of this bushing is the same as the kingpin. So what I can do is I can take the reamer tool, this is a very precise fit through the bushing, and just have it go through the intermediate plate really carefully. And that will position where this reverse idler goes. So now it's located in its actual spot. Normally the shaft on this is part of the nose cone. It incorporates the nose cone and in the intermediate plate. It goes through both sides, so it's in double shear. But this has positioned it well enough to where I can now get the relationship of this fork. See, it doesn't move very much. So we'll position these forks relative to this one, make sure they're lined up in the grooves here. So we want to have these positioned all in a row. So when the hockey stick comes in, you either select reverse or first, second, third, fourth. The rotation of this is also important. So you don't want it way out there or you'll never be able to select that gear. It needs to be in close proximity. And I took some pictures of this before I took it apart too. I'm going to go back and look at those real quick too. The other thing I want to do before I tighten down these bolts on the selector shaft, these things wiggle a fair amount and that can affect its alignment. So the factory workshop manual recommends something called P68, and it's basically a block with 3 holes drilled in it, and it aligns these shift forks just like they're aligned on this side. The tunnel actually has the 3 holes in it as well. So I either can make my own tool or I can maybe salvage an existing part, which is this guy. This is an intermediate plate that is worn or damaged or like left outside or whatever. These bores are likely no good. So I am going to clean up those 3 holes right there, cut this plate so I can use this on this end and hold those selector shafts or selector rods in position before we tighten those bolts up. And that's what the holes look like in the tunnel of the transaxle. So we're just trying to mimic those on the bench. This is the piece I want. The bores are a little bit corroded. I cleaned them out the best I could with the ultrasonic cleaner and the dental pick. So I think it'll slide on, and it's just got penetrating oil on it right now. Yeah, it fits really nice. There's steel inserts. I actually sawed right through them. That's really corroded. There's no way the springs would have worked in those bores. There is still some movement when you really twist it though, but it's better than nothing. The only thing better than that would be to take the entire tunnel housing and saw a little window in it so you can get access to those bolts. That would be better, but this is like what the factory recommends, so I'm going to go with that. The other thing is I got my pin gauges out again. To line all these selector forks up, I got this pin gauge. Will go right inside the 3 at a time. So that puts them all at the same level. The other thing I'm doing is I'm using these smaller guide pins. They're still in their little paper wrappers, but that allows me to position this guide ring or the slider ring right in between the synchros. See how much adjustment room there is? You want those to be exactly centered. These two pins are equivalent sizes. This won't move at all. It's exactly centered between both of the dog teeth. And that's what the slider ring actually engages with, is the dog teeth. So this is, I think, the best way to position that. So you can see now the bolt wants to be tightened right about there, centered, and it's also lined up on the same plane over here on the selector spot where the hockey stick makes contact. This should be the correct adjustment. So that's one aspect of the adjustment. The other aspect is the angle at which it attaches to the rod. And it's hard for you to see on that angle of the camera. I can rotate this all around. So what I want is I want these to be pretty close together, so as you go from first over to third, that rotates the hockey stick, and that you want those to be pretty close together but not rubbing against each other. So I'm looking at the clearance between the selectors as I tighten this down. That's perfectly centered right now. And then I'm going to rotate this down so it's close to the second gear opening there. Tighten this just a little bit. Let me show you how it looks on this side. So I'm going to pull this pin out so you can see the alignment. But this is all perfectly lined up in this plane. And then the distance between these items is pretty minimal. See, this one has some movement in it because it's not attached to a shift fork. It's just attached to this gear right here. But that does not make contact with second gear, even if you shift it all the way up. But there is daylight in between there. What ends up happening is this device comes in from the nose cone and it rotates as you use the shifter. So this can go in between and then it can grab, this case it would grab reverse and pull. This case, you would take first and second, you could either push or pull, but this will fit through there without hitting this one. So first would be forward, second would be backwards. There's nothing in the manual that talks about how far apart these should be, but I did take some pictures of this, and this is about how it was before I took it all apart. See how these are directly in the center between both of those dog teeth? Same here. This is directly in the center between both of those dog teeth. So when you move the shifter forward, it has the same travel going from first as it does to second. So neutral to first, neutral to second should be the exact same feel on the shift lever. Okay, we just got to replace that spring once I get a good one. But for now, I don't think it's preventing me from shifting gears. I think it's just making it a little bit tighter than it should be. So the detents are working. And then this one is the one that's a little heavier, I think. That's fourth gear, third gear. So it doesn't seem noticeably stronger, but until you have the actual gear shift, it's a little tricky. So try to get it back in neutral. There's neutral. So if I back that bolt off, yeah, so now it shifts a lot easier. So if I don't find the spring, it may be possible to shim this bolt and get the same feel, because that makes a huge difference. This bolt is available from the bottom of the car, so this is easy to switch out later or make adjustments later.